This is Seth Baker. He is one of our favoriteest clients. He is extremely well organized and does quite good book trade in used textbooks. So I wanted to have him talk to you guys about how you can run a fairly well-scaled textbook business. And let's see. So Seth, how long have you been selling on Amazon, or and you can talk if you sell on Amazon UK or Amazon Euro as well?
Yeah, sure. So I started out on Amazon UK last January.
Oh, wow.
So 2018. But I kind of started in retail arbitrage doing absolutely anything that would turn a profit. And I kind of had no idea what I was doing. It was the first business I've ever started. So I was just picking up whatever I could from the equivalent of Walmart over here and just trying to see what would sell and whatnot. And I kind of had no clue. I had a bit of an idea how to use Keeper, but other than that, it was kind of whenever there was a deal on at a shop, I would check my Amazon app, see how much it was going for on Amazon, and kind of just like chuck it in. I was doing all the prepping myself.
Wow.
And it was, and I live in a small flat in London. It's kind of similar prices to New York. So I basically had loads of stock in my flat. I living with my brother. He was just getting really annoyed about it. And it was all very disorganized. I was making a bit of money, but I think the fact that I was spending so much time on it and the disorganization meant that there was probably a lot of returns that I should have done that I didn't get around to, and I probably wasn't making as much money as I should have or could have. And I'm not sure when I got turned on to the US market, but I had no idea that books were so kind of lucrative and sold so well. So I did sell some books on the UK market, but in the UK it's a lot slower. It's like a highly ranked book. It's hard to say. So in the US, you'd probably think that you'd sell any book within up to 500,000 rank. That sells relatively well, right? In the UK, you'd probably say that anything up to 100k sells relatively well. So it's obviously there's a smaller pool of books to take from, and I would kind of send them in, and I'd wait a couple of weeks for a book to sell, maybe a month or something. So it wasn't. I basically just didn't see the value of it. And then I found Zen Arbitrage. Can't remember whether it was on YouTube or I can't exactly remember. But I thought, I'll give it a shot. Like it's worth a look in. The margins look good and stuff. And at around the same time that I started doing books and kind of contacted you, my Amazon UK account actually got banned.
Oh.
So as well as being very disorganized, not really knowing what I was doing, I accidentally bought quite a lot of video games that were counterfeit. So I think it was just because I was taking up so much stock in my flat, I was kind of just like sifting through stuff, just chucking it in a box, sending it to Amazon. I wasn't really taking much time to look at everything and see whether it was legit. So a few customers complained, I got banned. I spent quite a bit of money trying to overturn that ban, and I didn't have invoices because I was buying from eBay. So that was a problem. And then I've never got that ban overturned. I had a good $5,000-6,000 sitting in there that was due to be dispersed to me, and that obviously is still sitting there now.
Oh, I didn't realize they never return it. I thought they just held on like about 6 months or something.
No, so yeah, I thought that too. So I emailed their support and they said within 3-4 months, at least you'll get some of it back, like the stuff that's not counterfeit. So as far as I can see, it's been a year now. They've just kept it. And I also had, I don't know, let's say a few $1,000s worth of stock in there. And at some point, they just decided to dispose 90% of it. So I've lost about $10,000 in the UK market. But fortunately, because I started churning a lot of my revenue from the UK and moved that into US, in
Yeah.
July, August last year. Fortunately, I was able to kind of like get the ball rolling with the US market a bit there. But that's quite a long-winded way of me saying how I started.
That's awesome though, because you seem, I'm sure that it was really awful when you went through it, but you seem pretty blasé about it now. And do you have an entrepreneurial background? Because it's usually the people I've seen with like, a lot of different businesses in their background who are just sort of like, yeah, that one didn't work and I lost about 10 grand. The people with the more conservative mindsets are usually the ones who are like, I lost 10 grand. I'm never touching Amazon again.
Yeah, I guess I've never, this is my first kind of entrepreneurial venture, but I think I've always had a bit of an appetite for risk. I've also like wasted quite a lot of money in cryptocurrency and Bitcoin as well.
You're one of the bleeding edge types.
That's right, trying to be, but losing a lot of money on that as well. But so yeah, I guess the way I looked at it was that I've lost a bit of money, but I've learned a lot. And also I kind of put a few books into Amazon US, turned a pretty good margin. I thought, oh, well, look, I've lost a bit of money, but I can take this into the next venture. And fortunately, keeping on trying's kind of helped out and worked well, really.
Yeah. So I guess you got shut down in the UK before you were able to really see if you could get the Zen rolling in the UK, or the margins weren't good as well as the pool being smaller, or?
No, I would say that I could have done a lot better in the UK, but I would have needed a prep company because there's no way of scaling in your flat to any degree.
No. I mean, even somebody with a house and a garage in the United States would be hard pressed to scale at a certain point.
Exactly. And yeah, I mean, it just would have been a bit of a nightmare. And I think the UK is a really good market, especially because we can sell into the EU market as well. Mm-hmm. And the Germany and Spain and Italy are quite fresh, really. I mean, it's really quite ripe for buying something through Amazon UK and then sending it in and then selling it on to Germany for like triple the amount, quadruple, just because apparently Germany especially just doesn't really have online shopping yet. So Amazon's kind of the first one, and Germans are willing to pay like a significant amount more just for the convenience, I guess. So what it was potential, and I'm obviously I was at the time quite gutted that I did get banned, but the US market is a lot better, and I'm almost glad it happened because it's allowed me to focus on one thing, which is the main reason why I think I've managed to do relatively well, is that I've realized that rather than buying video games, like groceries, baby products, and whatever else, it's best to niche down and kind of really learn your market. And the books has just been like really good for me to be able to work, really.
That's awesome. So do you mind sharing how much revenue you get from the books, or your like monthly or annual sales figures on the .com market?
Yeah, so I would say the first 6 months was quite slow because I still hadn't learned how to read a keeper graph. So I spent a lot of time buying books where the FBA price was obviously a lot higher than the merchant fulfilled price, thinking that, I'll send it in and the FBA price is still going to be where it was, without looking at kind of the average price over 90 to 180 days. So I spent the first 6 months kind of just about like breaking even, maybe making a bit of a profit, and it was quite frustrating. And then something clicked in around December, which was quite fortunate when it came around to the January textbook season. And I only had about 350 books in January, to 350 to 400 books at probably January the 1st. And I did 30K that month. And that was way more than December. December was probably about like eight grand or something like that. So it went quite swiftly up to 30. And then February, because I'd pretty much sold out of most of those 350, didn't do that much in February. And then March, I think I went straight back up to maybe 25. April was probably 30. And then May, I did 54,000. June was 50. And then this month will probably be between 40 and 50. And then I'm pretty hopeful that August, maybe hit six figures. So
Yeah.
that's kind of where we're looking.
You're on track, so for at least a quarter mil this year, sounds like,
Yeah.
and possibly even 400,000. So,
Yeah, potentially.
awesome. Sounds awesome. So, excuse me. Sorry, I'm sitting here doing the math, scribbling the math on my little sheet.
That's all right.
So that's awesome. I love it. I love to hear that. Basically, you took your time in the first 6 months to really like figure it out. Because I would say of the clients that I see go through here, they're really dissatisfied with not making a profit for the first little while. And I can't tell you the number of emails I've written where it's been like, give it like 2 textbook seasons before you really start to anticipate making decent money at this, because you're paying tuition at this point.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you can't expect to be a millionaire straight away, can you? I know it's the age-old thing, isn't it? It's like people want to just become successful straight away, and whatever business model it is, whether it's digital marketing or Amazon FBA, it's the same thing, really.
Yeah, and I mean, if you see somebody out there making 6 figures a month or whatever, that rest assured they didn't start there, and just figure that like, okay, I have seen someone make 6 figures. I now know that this is possible, and I will work to get my skills up and refine my niches until I can get there. And like, sounds like, did you, reading the Keepa graph sounds like it was a really big break point for you. So is that like did you study up on it, or was that just a function of looking at a lot of them?
Yeah, I guess just looking at hundreds and hundreds of Keepa graphs. I mean, it's definitely going to be in the thousands now. It's probably just got to a point where I got to however many books where the FBA price had actually dropped to the average or below the average, and I was just getting a bit frustrated. And I thought, wait a second, there's something I'm missing here. I need to start not looking at like the weekly graph. I need to look at the yearly graph. I need to check supply and demand. I need to look a bit more intricately into the graph. And as I say, that was a few months in. It probably should have been short. I probably should have watched some more YouTube videos or read some more articles that told me to look at the average price, because that kind of makes sense, but I don't know.
There aren't a lot of great resources on Keepa, I don't think. I think it's difficult to teach people how to analyze. I guess like when I'm asked, my biggest piece of advice is just to figure out, so there's nothing on Keepa that doesn't mean something. So figure out, if they went to the trouble of adding to the graph, figure out what that information tells you.
Yeah, definitely.
So work backwards from the data to find out what other people are inferring from it. And that's like kind of the best way I can think of to explain to people that the Keepa graph is a minefield. That's not the right phrase. Is a goldmine of information if you can analyze data. But then when people are like, well, how do I analyze? I'm kind of stumped at how to explain more.
It's information overload, really, isn't it? It's kind of similar to Amazon Seller Central. When you first look at it, you think, oh my God, this is not too much to deal with. I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. And it's the same with the Keepa graph, I guess. I kind of looked at it, and because it's too much information, I thought, oh, this graph is quite squiggly. It looks like this sells well. The sales rank is looking good, so I'm just going to buy that. But actually, you need to look at the average price. You need to look at how it was doing last year. You need to look at the offer count. You need to factor all of it in. But I guess with information overload, your brain can't process that when you're quite new to it. So it's a learning stage, isn't it?
And after a while, you just see, 11 million of them, and you start to see patterns across them as well.
Yeah. Like,
here's this book that I haven't been able to sell. What's different about it?
Yeah.
Because I imagine 400 titles was quite onerous for you to reprice during January.
Yeah. I've since worked out a way of doing it a lot quicker. So at the moment I've got nearly 1,200 books.
Wow.
And I still do that manually at the moment. I reprice 600 every other day. So I'm repricing every day. I'm repricing 600 books every day. But I've worked out a way of doing it much quicker than I was doing it before. So don't know if you want me to go into that. It's probably quite useful.
I think people would find that very useful.
I don't actually know how everyone else manually reprices, but what I used to do is I used to go through every book I had and then tab it out, control click,
open it up.
Yeah. What do you do? Just out of
Yeah. Sorry, it's been a long time since I did it myself. But if I remember the procedure, so there was like a link clump plugin for Chrome, and you basically like take the little red box and you scooch it down all through the FBA prices, and then that opens up a wave of tabs in Chrome, and then you just you open up the next tab and you look at it and you say, oh, this price is, because with the used books you need to basically look at what your competition is doing. So if some dummy is doing a like new for $10 less than your book, you obviously want to know that when you're pricing your good, because on the Amazon screen, of course, it just shows you in the like categories if you have it set up correctly. And so it's very time consuming, and you know, once you get the hang of it, I'm kind of like, well, you maybe want to hire that out, because it's very time consuming and yet quite necessary for books.
Yeah. But the thing with hiring out for me is that I kind of see repricing as invaluable, because I get to learn the market of each book. And because I'm buying a lot of books as replens, you know, I'm replenishing a lot of my stock, books I know that are going to sell well, or I'm getting for a good price that's from a certain supplier. I want to know how many big sellers are constantly on that. So when I'm manually repricing, I'm learning the market, and I'm kind of I'm getting to know when Rent You have got 20 books of that in stock, so I'll hold off on buying that one just now. So it's a bit of a catch-22, because I don't want to have to reprice 1,500 books when it gets to that much, or 2,000. That's actually not going to be possible. But it's also it's very valuable for me to keep doing it as I am, and it's definitely making more sales for me. So I'm at quite a bit of a tough point now, because I know that it's going to start to be too difficult. But on the point of repricing, so I was tabbing out and doing that, but I've since created a Google sheet where I put the Amazon URL in column A, say, and then I filter every ISBN. You know, on the managed pricing screen, you've got 250 of your books. So I take all 250 of those, I put them in column B, and then I have another column C, which is an extra part of the URL, which adds in each like used, acceptable, used good, and also new, so that I can kind of open up 25, 30 links at a time, and it will give me the prime FBA offers, and it will give me the new prices and all the used conditions as well. And it will just like zoom them all out. Whereas when you're using link pump, it might not do all that.
Okay.
It might be doing the same thing as what you're saying, but either way, it's a lot better than I was doing it.
So you're opening it so that the ticky, you've saved the links so that the ticky boxes for
they're all as I want to see them. So
yes, okay. So it pulls it up, and then you've got separate tabs for each for like the acceptables and the goods and the.
No. It's in. So I'll tab one book out, and it will show me all the FBA offers, and then it'll be the new, acceptable, good, very good, and like new all in one. And then obviously, because I don't really care about the merchant fulfilled offers, it won't include those.
Okay.
So it's just a more efficient way of me.
Okay, so you have it set up so that it goes to just the FBA offers.
Yeah, exactly, and new as well, because sometimes there are some new.
So that's Link Pump won't do that. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
so
because that's useful.
FBA offers.
Sometimes you'll get a lowball new offer, and that will be ruining your. Like, you're wondering why it's not selling, and I'd spend weeks being like, what's going on? And it's actually just because there's quite a few new books, so you might miss out on that.
Are they Amazon's books, or are they other FBA
books? Yeah, there's the occasional FBA seller that's got a big like load to get rid of new books for whatever reason. They've just got a good deal from a supplier, so that's really helped me out.
So do you when you open the screen, do you also have the Keepa app load at the same time?
Yeah. I know that's a lot slower, but I do kind of need to know whether I'm dealing with a slower
Yeah.
selling book or not, right? Obviously, because I need to know whether I can accept a smaller margin or kind of wait it out
Yeah.
a bit longer.
Yeah. Okay. That. I was just checking to see if you had some like brilliant, workaround for that, because to keep a chart does actually load fairly slow.
Yeah,
A lot of brain.
it's frustrating. I mean, the internet speeds aren't that great in London, so it can take quite a while. But
Yeah. Well, when you said you were doing the 250 pages, I mean, on my computer chokes on the 250 screen. Like
yeah,
I
it's not
keep
great.
it to 50 because my
Oh,
computer's
really?
bleh, we can't
Yeah,
show you all these lines in a timely fashion.
I'd go 250 just because I want to get through them.
I can't believe it with 600 a day. Wow. So you must have quite a system down, because, I mean, quite honestly, you sound like a machine. And just based on my experience of how you've processed inventory through my warehouse, like you are very detail oriented and you process things in a very timely manner. And yeah, like it's just great. Like people will process one of your emails in a very short period of time. There's no puzzling over what does he mean by this exactly. Like your instructions are very clear cut. And it's been really nice. You must have a system because, like clockwork, the majority of your books land on Monday morning.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I don't buy at a certain time. I just buy books every day, like whenever they're available, because obviously the best books go like that. They'll be gone in a couple of hours. So I just make a point to buy books every day, and it's always less than a weekend just because book companies don't really work on weekends, right? So it's Monday to Friday. I find that odd. Maybe it's some sort of layover from Friday.
I was going to say, it might be how their warehouse processes. So your supplier might just have a, twice a week shipping schedule or something.
Yeah, no, so I don't have a process with buying. It's just whenever I can, because I'm working a full-time job at the moment. So I kind of do this before work, on my lunch hour, after work. So I kind of have set times where I'm buying books, really.
Do you have goals for your Amazon business, or like do you plan to like get rid of the job, do this?
Yeah, I was actually going to quit the full-time work, but then I got offered kind of, it's not, so I'm contracting, so I'm not in a full-time role. So it's just, I kind of like do a bit of, it's essentially freelance work. So I'm finishing that at the end of August. So I'm planning on just taking the books kind of full time, but I'm also wary because I have been banned before that will happen again. So I don't really, I want at least one other revenue stream just because it's a bit dangerous only having one,
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm at. I can sustain myself on this, but I also don't want to have to take a salary out of this because I'm quite enjoying building it and not taking money out. And obviously I want that snowball to keep rolling and getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah, it's great how it compounds.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously living in London is very expensive. So if I was to take money out of the business, it would decrease that compounding interest momentum quite significantly. So so I don't really want to just focus on this.
And what would you really get? Well, like, what would you do with that extra 8 hours a day to grow your Amazon business? Would you be able to source more? Would you be able to reprice more? Like, there's kind of a finite amount of things you can do to keep.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm kind of at a point where I feel like I am at full capacity. So I'm not too sure where to go. I was kind of looking forward to August and September, seeing where the sales will go, and then kind of reassessing after that. But I did mention to you in an email, I was kind of after August and September, I was potentially going to try and start sourcing wholesale suppliers for new books, but I don't really know where to start, where to go. You don't really see that many FBA sellers just selling new books, but it definitely seems like something that could be a way of scaling, obviously.
So Amazon has some rules in place for new books that you can run afoul of. So, a lot of people will buy the new books or not even, so they'll buy new books in a retail arbitrage manner, right? They'll go to the discards bin at Barnes & Noble or wherever, or Dollar Tree. Somebody just sent me a YouTube video about somebody flipping books from Dollar Tree as new. Dollar Tree is like a dollar store, just like it sounds.
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah.
Okay. So there's an awful lot of like dollar store and liquidation places. However, you actually are not supposed to sell that kind of liquidation stuff. They often have little
The remainder marks.
dots. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Almost always they do, and even if they don't, you get one complaint as used sold as new, and which is essentially the same as a counterfeit. Like it's a bannable offense, and if you can't provide the sources, then you're kind of SOL, at least for that ASIN. And I know a lot of people will go along just collecting blocks for ASINs, just, a couple a year, 3-4 a year. And as long as they're doing pretty good sales volume and their metrics are otherwise good, it doesn't seem to affect them too much. But
really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, so it's kind of a mystery about how Amazon really decides who to ban, and probably nobody.
For me, for example, I saw that marker coming up for counterfeit, but I didn't really, because I had no idea. This is the first time I've ever done this. I thought I could brush past it, and it was a month or two later that they banned me. So yeah.
So counterfeits are really bad. I'm not going to pretend I'm some like Amazon guru here, but I've been around it for long enough that like counterfeits are very bad, because anything that impacts Amazon, like the trust of the Amazon customer, is a very big deal to Amazon. And then the next thing is used sold as new. So like because you've been doing all used books, you probably haven't seen that complaint because you haven't sold very many, if any, new books. No. I'm not really sure. And then, but even then, because you're doing online arbitrage, at least you have a paper trail of a supplier there. Whereas if you go and buy books from a Dollar Tree, your average dollar store receipt is just a ticker tape that says $1, $1, $1, $1.
Yeah, it's not no ISBN on it or anything.
Exactly. Yeah. It's for proof purposes, it's completely useless.
Yeah.
So, but for selling on Amazon, I know that there are sources of like non-remaindered books, particularly gift books and children's books, that like you could get in with people who produce them by the gross for various things, and then just the season moves on and they need to offload their inventory.
Right.
But you're not going to get the sales ranks that you now enjoy with your textbooks. Like nothing sells like textbooks.
No.
So it's one of those sort of, from what I've seen, a lot of people who do it have like pre-existing relationships. I know of a guy in North Carolina who seems to have a sweetheart deal with a warehouser in one of those coastal cities, some city in North Carolina. Right. And he basically, whenever they need to shift some inventory, he just takes several pallets, no questions asked, like whatever you need to get rid of, I'm your guy. And then he sells them in flea markets, and he sells them in like various little gift shops all over North Carolina, and like he does a lot of legwork.
Right.
So oftentimes what you're doing is you're taking somebody who has inventory that it's not worth for them to package up and sell online, and you're getting creative in how to offload it. So one thing that might be really interesting for stuff like that is gift books, children's books, maybe some seasonal items, things of that nature. It might be cool to get into wholesaling them as bundles.
Right, yeah.
So like you can't have a book or a media item as the main part of a bundle, but say you bundle a book and a teddy bear and a bunch of stickers, and you've got a great gift for a kid.
Yeah, that's true.
So so that sort of thing is, I think you'd have to be more creative about it than your typical flipper. But when you're more creative and the more legwork that you put into it, the more defensible the position is, and the more you can improve your markup. Because the other thing about books, other than textbooks, is the markups are not great. The margins are, fairly minimal, because just because when you yourself are sourcing online as an overseas seller, you're not going to get the like books for a nickel that a lot of the US sources are going to get.
Yeah, and that is a bit of a shame.
Yeah.
But I guess in terms of scaling for me, that there are so many books that do sell well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of intrigued to see. I note down every ISBN I buy that's unique, right? So
Mm-hmm.
and I'm constantly buying new ISBNs that I haven't bought before. So the way I'm looking at it is, if I keep making more money, keep building that compound
Yeah.
interest, and keep finding new ISBNs, because
Yeah.
books are constantly being published or constantly being sold, used.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just interested to see where I can take it and how far I can scale it, because there's no reason why I
Yeah.
can't keep growing. Obviously, there will be a ceiling, but I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I've still got quite a long way to go.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess watch this space. But
I know it's really interesting because like I don't know if you've heard the mathematical theorem of like how do you figure out how many piano tuners are in the city of Chicago? No? All right. Well, it was like a job interview thing, supposedly.
oh right, yeah, well you've got to be like analytical about it.
Exactly. And so,
Yeah,
like, in theory, like, only a certain amount of books are going to meet your profit requirements. Only a certain number of books are going to meet your demand requirements, your, like, sales rank.
yeah,
And so they're not necessarily going to be sourceable, or they're not going to necessarily have arbitrage opportunities, or they're not going to necessarily be in demand. But in those three circles have to overlap somewhere. And how much do they overlap? Who knows?
yeah, exactly.
So,
And another good thing about books is that you've got massive sellers like Better World Books, well, massive merchant field sellers and massive FBA sellers that
mhm.
will often have pricing kind of errors that
Yeah.
you can exploit
Right.
every day by keeper alerts, and you can see this, and you can obviously see when there is a pricing error, all the other books
Mhm.
will follow via the repricer, and you can just pick those off. And I don't see why that won't keep happening, because massive sellers can't keep a tab on all of their books, and I'm picking those off, and I'm interested to see that how it's not going to stop, so I can just keep doing that and keep building it really.
Then no, I think your problem is going to be on the other end. Before long, you'll be counted one of those massive sellers and not be able to keep up with your own repricing that allows you to exploit that loophole in the market. So you might need, I think it's wise of you to continue to reprice and keep that learning process going. And at the same time, you might also want to train somebody to also do it, or a few somebodies, so that each of you can take a small, reasonable chunk, and they can also keep an eye out for replens for you. Like, you can figure out whatever your parameters for replens, and they'll supply you with a list after they reprice every day or whatever.
Yeah, I hear horror stories about VAs, so I think for me it'll be a case of hiring someone here to be kind of a manager, and obviously that's going to cost me a lot more, but at least I can better train them, and I know what they're up to, kind of thing.
Yeah, it depends on how. I have a fair amount of experience with hiring VAs, although not necessarily just for Amazon tasks, but I do like the structure of having a managerial VA to supervise many more low-cost VAs. Because much of what you want to accomplish is mechanical and doesn't require a lot of judgment. At the same time, there are always a few aspects of it that do require a lot of judgment. So the most successful setups I have seen involve not making yourself the hub of the wheel, making someone else the hub of the wheel, and having each person report to them and move stuff up the line for your manager to look at, and then the manager compiles and analyzes the data and presents it to you for a review.
Yeah.
Because of how you can get so burnt out on analysis, like I'm pretty sure you've seen yourself when you're analyzing buy after buy after buy, after a while, you get into kind of an autopilot where you're not even really thinking anymore. You're just sort of feeling your way through the decisions.
Yeah, definitely.
So if you can figure out a way to reduce the amount of decision fatigue by having someone present you with basically home runs, then you can just be like, yeah, those all look good. They all meet my parameters, rather than actually having to think about every question every time.
Yeah. I think I wouldn't ever outsource the buying, just because I've noticed that all the best buys will be gone within an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours max. So I can't have someone emailing me stuff at the end of the day or what because I'll miss them all. So I probably would outsource the repricing at some point and other things, but I think I'd always do the buying myself or have someone actively doing it. Kind of.
Yeah, I was going to say you probably could give them a credit card share on LastPass or something.
Yeah, something like that. But that's quite a lot of something to think about, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. It depends on if you've got like time zone arbitrage. Like, I remember when I used to do this is a long time ago now, so I don't know if this is still a thing, but like if I would get up and reprice at like 5 o'clock in the morning, because that's what time I'm up anyway, then there was often a lot of like somebody's repricer had done something stupid overnight and dropped like a penny every minute or something, and then there would be a lot of like arbitrageable buys there.
Yeah, I think that does happen, but I have a feeling it's a bit rarer now because you do hear stories about people's reprices going a bit haywire, but I've only seen that a couple of times, and when I went to buy them, they were gone. So someone had already had them, or the repricer maybe had just cut like
caught it. Yeah,
something like that. But I think that's a bit rarer now. I'm not sure though.
Yeah, I figured. I mean, that was such a big loophole that I was surprised to see it even then, because even then, pricing wars like that were the stuff of legend. I mean, this guy 2013 or something. So
right.
So.
Yeah, I think they're a bit more intelligent now, aren't they? They're a lot slower to go down.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I did do a really good deal in January, which was I just got an alert on Keeper that this book had gone down to $9 or something. Rent You had gone down to, and I just bought 20 of them, like all of their stock, and then on a trading buyback site, it was going for $50. So I just got rid of it. So that was just like $1,000 straight up.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's rare, obviously. But something to look out for.
Yeah, and everybody says that you make the money on the buying side, not on the selling side.
Yeah, exactly.
Buy low, don't anticipate selling high. Do you have a lot of problems with the gatings?
I really haven't. I think I remember when I don't know if it's a thing that happens every July, but I remember when I first started with you guys, I sent a load of books in. And I say a load of books. I can't remember how many, probably like 50 or something. And I maybe 20 of them got gated, and I'd spent quite a lot of money on them, like proportionally, and I was quite upset about that at the time. And then I've noticed that this July, at the same time, I've had a few books gated, but this time it was only 3 books. Out of, obviously, I've got quite a lot more now. So I feel like maybe once you've had a year experience, they don't gate you as much. Don't know how it works. That's
my experience as well. I was just making sure that you weren't like getting gated, but like cleverly arranging not to buy them. So
no, I think I'm just allowed to sell way more than I was before.
Yeah, and I think it's because of your volume. Because we also have clients who do like a really steady like 50 to 100 books every single month. They're really steady sellers, but they're not seeing a lot of volume. And they're still getting gated, not like crazy amounts, but they're still seeing more gatings, whereas as from what I've noticed, you're barely ever gated. So, but at the same time, you're also doing a lot of replens. So I think a lot of people probably also as a function of sales volume don't go back to their previous purchases
maybe
to do the replens, and so they're always in fresh territory with new ASINs.
Yeah, true. Maybe inventory score has something to do with it as well. I mean, that's just me guessing.
Oh, maybe.
I don't know.
That would make sense. I mean, I think sales volume is probably more important, but then sales volume is a big part of your inventory score as well. So you especially sell through. So do you get because you're doing mostly used books, you're not gonna see like the used sold as new. So, but do you get the scary letters from Amazon very often about the counterfeits that you're so familiar with on the like UK site?
I've had absolutely nothing of that nature whatsoever. I've had no emails from Amazon with regards to anything like that. So,
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah. Is that more? I don't know. Yeah.
Well, I mean, anyone doing your volume, I would expect that you would get like one or two sort of like, can you present a
buyer that?
yeah, could you
Talking about
present us
buyers that
with your
complain.
invoice? Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I haven't had that whatsoever, which is quite fortunate, I guess.
Yeah, especially with your volume. So that's what I've seen with some of my other high volume sellers is like they'll get it and I get an email saying like, please provide us with your invoice, and let us know, like provide us with one of the action plans or whatever they call them.
Oh yeah. That's what I had in the UK from.
Yeah, exactly. And so my other high volume sellers are just sort of like, yeah, do you remember anything about this book? And of course we're like,
yeah,
not really.
But I guess this is testament to you guys doing your job so well that I haven't had that. But also another point is that I've stopped buying from random people on eBay. I only ever buy off big sellers now because A, I know I'm going to get less returns, and B, just because it's more reliable. And because I know that if I needed to, I could go to them for an invoice and they'd actually do that for me. So yeah, I guess I've been lucky. Hopefully that won't happen.
I mean, I think that's really important. I don't think that all of the eBay sellers are sketch, but like the part of the problem is the inconsistency with which Amazon decides what is a qualifiable invoice.
Exactly.
So, or what is a legitimate reseller, because with used books, particularly in regards to counterfeits, like you're just expected to show that you bought it off a legitimate seller and had every reason to believe that it was legitimate. And, it's anyone's guess whether the person that you bought it off of eBay was. We had one guy who basically cross-referenced all of his suppliers with the title, like the ASIN, to make sure that they weren't basically dumping books. So if they had a whole bunch of copies of DSMV, he would immediately flag them as being potential counterfeiters and would audit the books that he shipped in from them, which I was like, wow, that's impressive. And, he got a bunch of scary letters from Amazon and he was like, yep, no more eBay people. Nope.
Yeah. I think also I am wary because I know like DSM-5, there's a lot of books like that. I will just steer clear of those. I know for a fact that there's no point in buying them. And I've bought a couple that you guys have noted as counterfeit, and I've just noted down that ISBN, and I'm not going to buy that again because I don't want to take that risk.
That's a terrible ISBN, and like anyone who asks me, I'm just like, as far as I'm concerned, there are no legitimate copies of this in existence ever.
I don't know what color it's supposed to be. I have no idea. Is it purple? Is it black?
Oh, I mean, it is purple, but like the shade of purple varies widely.
Yeah. Because I bought it in the UK. And
oh, really?
Yeah.
Is it also often illegitimate there?
Oh yeah. I churned over a few of those. I'm surprised I didn't get counterfeit claims for that. But yeah, I've stayed clear of that ever since.
Yeah, it's such a high demand title. And I mean, at this point, I don't know if they've ever published a legitimate copy of it. But
no, I know. It's scary, isn't it?
No, and like we tried, let's see, when was that? I guess it was February. We tried to like follow. So there's a consortium of sellers or of publishers that basically got together to try and stamp out counterfeiting. Best of luck to them, but their guidelines for what constitutes counterfeiting is ignored by their own publishers every single day. Like, books are supposed to have those little, those little cloth in the binding at the top of the binding, and it's just ridiculous. And the glue, like maybe on the 4th printing the glue is still good, but by the 22nd printing they're just phoning it in.
Yeah, they're never going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
It does annoy me though that you get Books and other book websites like that allow sellers who are blatantly selling international editions that or and they're just allowed to be on the listing. Like, why are they not banned? Why can they not just be cut off?
Yeah, I'm not sure about their policy there for them, because the Amazon is the only online bookseller that I'm aware of that actually bans them, international listings. And now Amazon is even offering, I've noticed Amazon's even offering trade-ins on global editions, which
Right.
I was like, what now?
Yeah.
So they must have won some sort of landmark case or something, because they do say quite explicitly on the cover of all the global editions, not for sale in the US.
Yeah.
But as long as they're on the Amazon, like on a specific global edition listing, like Amazon has no problem with them. I'm not sure if that's because they plan to basically just hide behind the fact that a lot of countries, regardless of whether they have their own like Amazon, the selection on Amazon.com dwarfs anything anywhere else. So when we first started doing FBA, we would have a fun little game. We had like a board on a wall with a world map, and like whenever Amazon would send a book of ours, like Abu Dhabi or whatever, we would put a pin in it, because wow, our books are going everywhere. So I'm assuming that that's the fig leaf that they're using. That of course it's only the Indian students who are buying these global editions off of our US site.
Yeah, of course.
Anyways, so you don't have any VAs at the moment. You do this all yourself.
Yeah, it's just me.
How many hours a day would you say you put into this?
Quite a few. I'd say I do about. I'm pretty much doing it all day.
Okay.
Just because it's something that I just really enjoy about buying something low somewhere and then selling it on Amazon for a higher price. It's just a hobby for me, and the fact that it makes money is good. So I am pretty much at it all day, and I would say that there's no point in getting into this if it doesn't interest you quite a lot, because it's going to take a lot of work to be able to get to a point where you're doing steady 5-figure months. Because obviously it takes a lot of work to source, takes a lot of work to reprice, and there's no way around that work. So yeah, I'm spending most of the day on it, really.
Are you able to do it? You said you were doing it at your lunch at work. I'm not sure if you have the kind of job that like an IT job or something where like between tasks you can.
Yeah, I mean, I am doing quite a lot at work, which I shouldn't really say, but yeah.
Well, it's one of those things where there's I don't know if you follow Reddit or Entrepreneur or any of those sort of online forums. I do definitely see a lot of people have like tech style jobs where they their job is just to basically be there when something blows up, but in between time they just don't have that much to do. So
it's quite funny you say that, because I am currently working as a finance support on a finance support desk.
Excellent.
So when I've got a nice clean slate and there's no complaints, and I can obviously do as much repricing as I want.
Yeah, if there's no tickets, what else are you supposed to do? Just open Facebook?
Yeah, I'd rather do some repricing.
See, that's how I know you're different, because who is looking for opportunities to do that? Repricing is so boring.
Yeah, it's not interesting. But as I say, if you're learning when these books sell and how often they sell, for me, I just see it as a way of I am making more money the more I reprice. So it's kind of just a reframe of it, really. Yeah,
and it was also a big challenge when I started writing down SOPs to automate our book business. Right. Where it was like I had to think about what I had learned implicitly and try to make it explicit. Like, this is what we're thinking about when we see this. So that was also another big challenge that, whenever you get bored of repricing and you don't think your learning curve has sort of leveled off, I highly recommend writing SOPs.
Yeah.
Re-engaging and being like, what am I trying to do here?
Yeah, I think I definitely need to do that. And even if at some point I wanted to sell this, I don't know how viable that would be, but obviously you need to have SOPs for absolutely everything. So it's probably something I will do in the future.
Yeah. Let's see. I had like a whole page here of questions. I just want to make sure I got them all. Okay, so you don't have SOPs, but you must be a pretty organized person, because like you present us with very organized task lists to do. My warehouse manager loves getting one of your emails, because he's like, I'm gonna go do a Baker email, and he has got like your bin is separated in between your regular books and your trade-ins and the stuff that you're probably going to return. As soon as you've finished reviewing the spreadsheet, which you do like every single day, so we love you for it. And so he's like, I'm just going to go do a Baker email. And someone will read off the stuff on your email and someone will pull them from your stack. And it's all really super organized and lickety split. It's really hard. It's really hard to express how nice it is when when everything is orderly in the way you expect it. And it's difficult because everybody sort of thinks about things in a different way. So like, we're kind of used to being like, okay, well, here's what this person was getting at, and here's how they organized their email. And okay, I think I know what's going on. But yours are, I guess, very, very in tune to what we're doing, because you move from like the trade-ins to the returns, and everything's attached to the bottom of the email. And it's really great. I just can't express it. And I probably sound like a super nerd right now. But you must have almost a checklist, probably a mental checklist, it sounds like, of things you have to do every single day.
Yeah. I mean, I keep it really simple. I just use a Trello. Do you know Trello?
Yes.
Yeah. So I just have Trello, and then I have a Monday Trello, a Tuesday Trello every day of the week. And I just pop in the things I need to do. So whether it be send that trading email, and then I'll put probably a list of ISBNs that I'm thinking about returning kind of on one of the days, and I'll kind of like work my way through them, and then depending on my full-time job, how clean the tickets are and how little I have to do, then I'll choose on a Monday or Tuesday to go through all the trade-ins, go through the returns, and then send that email off. So it's simple, but it's just a to-do list really, and that's just the way I kind of keep it.
So do you have recurring tasks on that to-do list though, it sounds like? Or do you like think them up every day?
Yeah, I'll leave them on there sometimes if they're recurring, but I'll archive them, and then I'll pop them back on when I remember I need to do it or whatever. And then I think there's just things that I just remember to keep doing. So I'll make sure every couple of days to paste all my buys from a buy sheet onto your spreadsheet. Just things like that I need to keep up with. So it's a mixture of Trello and kind of just knowing that I need to do this regularly. So if there's something, I know I'm repricing every day, so I know that I need to do that at some point. So yeah, it's a mixture of the two really.
So what other kind of tools do you use? So I know there's you're one of the few people who does trade-ins successfully. A lot of the times people are getting slammed with like, this is really annoying from our perspective as well, because the trading companies have already all been sued by the publishing companies for, aiding and abetting counterfeiters, essentially.
Right.
So they're very prickly about trade-ins for the most part in terms of their legitimacy. So oftentimes, especially if somebody does a multiple buy, where they're sending in several copies of a book,
right,
they'll get a letter from the publisher or from the trading company being like unable to confirm authenticity, which basically,
I've had that a few times.
Oh, have you? Okay.
Yeah. Not loads. I've noticed a few suppliers are worse than others, so I don't go near textbook recycling now, because they've pulled a few of my books that were clearly not counterfeit. You guys haven't labeled it as, and then I forgot about them because I've got so many trade-ins going through. That was me not being organised. And that was probably a few $100s down the pan, just because they hadn't offered to send it back. They hadn't sent me an email. I had to log into the account. But I've just noticed that certain companies are much better than others. So I've worked that out over kind of just
experience.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, textbook recycling has like a ridiculous minimum too, doesn't it? Like a $150 or $200 minimum.
No, it's not that bad actually. I think it might only be $50 or something.
Oh, 50. All right.
I just wouldn't go near them. But most of the other ones I really haven't had a problem with. I've probably only had about 10 to 20 books kind of pulled for authenticity.
That's good.
eCampus aren't great either.
And then do you arrange to get them back? Because that's the other thing is people email us and be like, they say this book is inauthentic. And we're like, no, actually they're saying that they don't know if it's authentic and they've already been sued. So
yeah, sometimes like textbook recycling will offer to send it back, but they won't send you an email. So I can't keep up with that if I'm not being organized. But eCampus and Sell Back Books, which I think are the same company, they'll just say, look, we couldn't confirm, but we're taking it. No, sorry, they'll say they'll say, we're going to send it to the publisher to confirm.
Yeah.
You're never getting that book back.
I honestly would be suspicious if it actually went to the publisher, or if the publisher was just like, strip the cover and destroy it.
Yeah. So lost a few books on that, but I think some of the margins I've made on trade-ins, and obviously because you're not dealing with any fees, I'd say the last 4 months I've consistently made $1,000 profit.
Oh, good.
Just from trading. So it's a nice added bit of revenue. Yeah.
So how does that work for you when you're buying a book? You're obviously looking at the differential between your sourcing and your projected FBA price. Then do you also take the extra step to run that through like bookscouter.com?
Yeah. So I only ever do trade-ins for books that I can't sell on Amazon. I'll pretty much always put them into FBA, just because I want the experience of knowing whether that book sells, and usually you can make more profit on FBA. So the only times I'll do trading is if I'm not allowed to sell it, or if it's real slow seller and I know that this trading price is it's not usually that high, so I'll chuck it in then. But yeah, it's usually just the books that I can't sell.
So do you use I think
Bookscouter, and Direct Textbook, because those are the two best ones. I think Direct Textbook, usually I actually get better prices than Bookscouter, so I would use Direct Textbook.
Okay. I think, well, the reason I was asking is I think Bookscouter has an app or something that similar to Keepa, where you can put like price alerts for the trade-in prices or something like that.
I think Bookscouter, you have to pay for a subscription for that, whereas Direct Textbook will do that for free though.
Ooh,
yeah.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I mean, I stopped using that just because it was frustrating getting all the emails through, because it will email you when the price has changed. So it's kind of, you're getting emails daily, and
that's not very handy. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it's useful, but because I don't do that many tradings, I don't really use that service. And I'm not sure what what you get for that money, because I don't think it's worth it for me. Obviously, Keepa is worth its weight in gold, but I don't think Bookscouter is really.
Okay, that's what I was wondering, is if there was like, oftentimes a lot of people will be like, well, I'm not doing enough volume to really use, to like get enough use out of this tool or that tool, and oftentimes, like, often explain to people that like just in the time you save and the improvement in your buying, it's oftentimes very much worth it, because it helps you scale faster.
Definitely.
You're not going to, that's $50 a month is probably a pretty nice chunk of your net every month, and yes, it does keep you from reinvesting it, but at the same time your decisions are much better for the person.
But sorry, going to what I tools I use. It's I do have a feedback tool that I use.
Okay.
I use Feedback Express, which I think is a UK company, but they do US obviously. And I think there's probably a bunch of those companies. I pay like $25 a month maybe for that, and that just sends an automated email out, obviously. So that's that, and Keepa are the only things that I pay for, I think. And then obviously a reprice might come further down the line, but I don't pay for any other software, and the rest of my software I use is free, and it's just productivity stuff. So I'd include Trello on that, and then Context Search. Do you know that one? It's kind of like, that's a really useful one.
That's the one that you can program in it, and it will open up all of the reseller sites. So you could have it programmed to open up.
Any site. So.
Any site, but
exactly, so it's good for if you just want to double click on an ISBN, and then you'll get Amazon pop up, and you'll be able to see Keepa or Bookfinder.
That's a really powerful one.
Context Search, really useful. There's another one I use which highlights words on the web page.
So for international editions.
Exactly, international, South Asia, and certain sellers that I just don't want to ever buy off. And that's just, it seems like a small thing, but that honestly saves so much time, because your brain obviously works with colours, and it's a lot more intelligent than us. So that one's really useful, just for like siphoning out info. Trying to think what else I use.
Well, you must have
Those are
an
the main
extensive
ones.
suite of spreadsheets because you've got your buy spreadsheet
Yeah.
and your repricing spreadsheet and your, I'm assuming, a replan spreadsheet that you check for frequently.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've got obviously buys, repricing, a trade-in sheet, just obviously keep a note of my profits on that. And then I've got a few different lists of ISBNs. So I've got ASINs, ISBNs that
Hmm.
I'm gated in, ones that I'm kind of more inclined to replan, and then just a list of every single ISBN I've sold. Yeah, I think lists of ISBNs are super important because you want to keep referring back to them because you're never going to remember which book you bought, which book you
Hmm.
haven't, which book you gated in. So I keep that. I think that's one of the keys to being able to do volume,
Yeah.
buy at scale, because if you keep having to check with your gate and something, that's just going to take all day, really.
Do you have any kind of like direct import set up for your ASINs, or is that all done manually?
What do you mean direct imports?
So there is a really great piece. So I always kind of preface this with how good are you at Excel?
Oh, okay.
Can you run a
Not
macro?
bad. Not bad. Yeah, I can run a macro.
All right, then you're excellent at Excel. So there is a great piece of software by the other book flipper. Sorry, his name, I think his website is The Book Flipper.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, I bought his spreadsheet from your
oh,
email.
excellent. Yes, I
Yeah.
really like his ROI spreadsheet, or I forget what he calls it exactly, tracking spreadsheet, something like
Yeah,
that.
that's awesome. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, it's.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I hope you're importing into that
Yeah,
because.
oh no, totally. That's so useful.
Okay, good.
Sorry, yeah, that's another thing I've obviously paid for. That's one of the
Yeah,
most
it
useful
was a
things.
one-time fee, and I like to recommend the stuff
Yeah,
that's a one-time fee because I think that helps
yeah.
people get over the hurdle.
I recommend everyone get that spreadsheet because it's just so methodical and it's just
Yeah,
got everything there and it's so useful.
and the reports are really awesome, and I mean
Yeah,
they're beautiful to begin with, very beautiful reports, and then also like year over year tracking, month over month tracking. I think you can even do
yeah,
week over week tracking, and
yeah, I
then
think so.
one
Term
thing.
rate in there as well.
What's that?
You've got term rate in there and you can
Yes,
put your
turn rate.
sales tax and it's just got everything in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing I really liked for like I do exclusively offline sourcing because it's kind of at this point it's just a hobby me and my husband do where like
Right.
gives us an excuse to travel really,
Yeah.
and so I like to keep the spreadsheet for like what my source like how good my sources are, and basically like just basically compare the sources for the quality of their books, how fast they sold, and just basically ROI because I often found that sometimes the smaller sales, if they were like more niche or more, we had like a better relationship with the crew that ran it. You know, we would consistently turn over like way better inventory from it and sell it faster and get like all kinds of sweetheart deals, like the which I'm not sure if that would really super duper apply to you, but at a certain point, like you just sort of look at your numbers and you realize like that's actually a really good source for me. I'm going to concentrate more of my time there. Whereas
Yeah.
this is actually a terrible source for me. There's way better places that I could be concentrating my time.
Yeah, definitely. No, it is useful because it's got a whole page of
Yeah.
all your sources. So yeah, that's really, really useful.
And I guess I would be remiss if I didn't ask you how you do the sales tax and like operating in a foreign country thing. Do you have like an accountant or?
Yeah, I was going to say I've forgotten that's another thing I pay for. I do tax jar.
Good.
It's quite a frustrating point for me actually because I remember you gave me a little bit of advice I think on the Facebook group or whatever, but I spent a lot of time researching sales tax and I was getting a bit worried because obviously I'm doing a bit more money and I don't want the state to audit me and have to pay 5% of everything. So I came to the conclusion that I'm going to sign up for sales tax in all the states and just do it. And because I haven't been collecting for a year, I thought it's better if I do it now. So I've done that. So I've signed up to like the main states that I owe more money. So like California, Texas, Florida.
Yeah.
And then after researching, I realised that actually in October, California are going to be part of the plan. So, and then.
But that just happened. It's so
yeah,
annoying.
I know. It just happened. So I signed up about a week before that was decided. So I was so frustrated. So I've paid however much to California just out of penalties and stuff. Yeah, pretty frustrating. But luckily it wasn't too much money, and I've paid it all off now. But there's only a few states after October and January next year that aren't going to be part of this. The Amazon, what's it called? Either way.
I haven't been paying attention because I've already been long signed up for everything.
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, yeah. The way I'm looking at it is because I'm a foreign seller. I've only done my first US tax return. They're never going to chase me up. There's no chance I can afford it. But for some reason, I've gone and done it, and I'm feeling pretty stupid about it, really. But I have done it for the main states, and at least I'm kind of compliant now.
It's one of those things where a lot of the time I look at it as like, wouldn't that be nice to have not have to worry about this now? Like, instead of worrying about like if the shoe is going to drop, or seeing reports about how like New York State basically asked Amazon for all their sales records and they just handed them over.
Yeah.
And it'd just be nice not to worry about it. So I call it my peace of mind tax, essentially.
No, it is good. It is good for that. And I just never knew it was a pass-through tax. I thought it was me having to pay money out of my pocket.
Oh,
So I'm annoyed that I didn't set it up earlier and just get it done earlier. But,
okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome then. It sounds like you did all the sign up yourself. So like that was also, I would imagine, a massive exercise in frustration.
Very, very frustrating. And my bank in the US doesn't do direct debits or ACH debits, so I've had to pay everything by a credit card, which adds an extra 3% fee, and I've had to call them up and pay with checks, and it's been a complete nightmare. Kind of.
Are you with Wells Fargo? Use Bank of America.
No, I can't have a normal bank account because I'm a foreigner. So
okay.
I have to go via Payoneer. I don't use Payoneer. I use TransferWise. I think those are the two companies that do it, but TransferWise don't offer a direct debit at the moment, and neither do Pioneer. So it's taken a lot of hours out of my day dealing with that, having take my money, California. It's been really frustrating, but I think I'm through the worst of it now. So it's all right.
The ways that I have heard, just in case you want to nip this in the bud further down the line, is that I think there's a few banks that, because you're in London, so that's really well placed. So I think if you found like an American bank that has an international presence, like Chase,
right,
or don't use Wells Fargo because they're terrible and corrupt. But what's the other one? Charles Schwab, that's the one.
Oh, okay.
Charles Schwab is a very old and venerable institution.
Yeah, I've heard of them. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know that they have a pretty strong international presence. So, so if you can find a London-based firm that has like a storefront and tellers and things like that, you should be able to open up an account there.
Yeah, I haven't thought of that. That's a good idea. And
then be able to now have an American account through their bank. Yeah. It's probably, double the fees or whatever, but theoretically having a banking account, or a checking account rather, in the UK and a checking account in the USA can't be that much in fees compared to Payoneer fees.
Yeah, I mean, actually, the fees for TransferWise aren't that bad.
Okay.
Well, as long as you keep churning your money in dollars, but it's obviously as soon as you have to put it to my UK account, it is costing quite a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'll definitely look into that. Chase Bank. Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for spending so much time with me. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your evening when you could have been repricing.
No, thank you.
And it's amazing to be starting in January 2018, and we're like 18 months later, and you're already on track to make at least $250,000 and probably like 400,000 in revenue this year. So
hopefully, yeah.
Congratulations.